Welcome to the San Jose Hockey Now podcast. I'm Sheng Peng, editor-in-chief of San Jose Hockey Now. You can also find my work at NBC Sharks and on Twitter at Sheng_Peng.
And I'm King McDowell. You can find me on Twitter at _hockey, my website, half-ballhockey.com, or at San Jose Hockey Now. This week, we're doing a little bit of a catch-up episode after our last podcast was delayed. We have lots and lots to talk about.
Yeah, we recorded last week. We talked on Monday, but that's quite a while. A lot has happened since then. Macklin Celebrini has returned. Will Smith has scored. Jake Walman got scratched. Timothy Liljegren came to San Jose, so a lot has happened. Yeah. I also am going to try to talk a little more quietly because I'm at my Airbnb and I'm sharing walls with people, so try not to blow your eardrums out. So hopefully the levels sound good. I raised my volume a little bit. I'm going to try to talk at a lower voice than I normally would, be a little less excitable. But anyway, I am in New Jersey. I talked with Jake Walman today about his non-hockey reason scratch, and so we'll get into that in a little bit.
Perfect. I'm wearing a jersey this week because the Sharks won a game. They won a game before our last podcast. I promised I would wear a jersey. And they've won more games since then. And that's kind of the first bit of big news is that the Sharks are better-ish. And that we have the return of the Macklin Celebrini, who scores 2 goals in his second game back, I believe. Mm-hmm. And looked awesome doing it. So that's where we should start, I think, because he is our franchise cornerstone. And
Sure.
How did you think about Mac's performance?
Actually, I thought that it was pretty rough in the first period, and I thought that his first game back was a little bit rough too. I think that he's still trying to figure out what he can do at the NHL level, things that he was doing in preseason and in college. Just the puck management kind of stuff, just passes coming out of the neutral zone, maybe things that he shouldn't try, or maybe things that they will work once he gets his timing down. I'm not really sure which yet, but there was a little bit of that going on in the first game especially, and in the first period of the last game, the game against the Minnesota Wild. But that second period, though, he started to take off, and that is the best period that I've seen from him in the regular season. Granted, it's only been 3 games, but I thought that he was dominating that. He was dominating on the rush. He was dominating on the power play entry, which I think I mentioned before, that's an area that I thought that he would really help the Sharks. Mm-hmm. And it's both his speed and deceptiveness. Like it's really impressive to see 18-year-old back in NHL defense, and Wild have a pretty good defense, pretty good team defense too. And he was able to push them back. And so on his first goal, granted, his pass in the end to Mikael Granlund didn't connect, but starts first with that play. That rush starts with a very nice Henry Thrun pass up. We'll talk more about Henry in a little bit, but nice Henry Thrun pass up to Celebrini. Celebrini from the D zone up pushes back the defense and gains the zone, and that's the kind of stuff that is really, really impressive to see Macklin do. And of course, what can we say about his second goal? A no-look goal, and he does that so well. I think even in that first period of that Minnesota game where I thought he struggled, he made one amazing pass to Tyler Toffoli, basically a no-look. Celebrini was along the wall. He got the puck, and in one motion, no look, just whipped it to Toffoli in the slot and froze everybody. Froze the entire Wild. That was a great A-chance set up, really, with just Macklin Celebrini's instincts. So overall, there's some growing pains here. And I wrote about that in my story. Welcome to reality, Macklin Celebrini, or welcome to San Jose Sharks reality, Macklin Celebrini, that you're going to score 2 goals and you're still going to lose. But though, in all fairness to everybody, or to be objective about it, Macklin's game still has a lot of work. It's going to be a lot of growing pains for Macklin and the Sharks this year.
The pace of the first goal was impressive. I think that was the biggest thing that stuck out to me, was how quickly he was transitioning and how quickly he made the play to Granlund and then got the puck back. Like it even though the pass wasn't perfect.
Credit to Granlund though for the pass back, and that's actually something I'm going to talk about in a little bit too. But anyway.
Yeah, even though the pass wasn't perfect to Granlund, it was with attacked at such pace at the defender. The defender got a stick on it, but he couldn't handle it because of how much how fast the play was happening in front of him. So it was like he shot it. I mean, it was kind of maybe a little bit of an ill-advised pass because it kind of hit directly on the defender's stick, but it was so fast of a play that it still worked. And the pace looked overwhelming for everybody on the defense there. So that's like, for an 18-year-old, like you said, super impressive. It's something that you see from like McDavid a lot. Like McDavid pushes play like that more than any other player in the NHL, and he does it on a nightly basis essentially. But that's his game is fast, quick, find the next man kind of plays. And it was awesome seeing Mac play like that because we get billed Mac of like, he's Taves, he's Crosby, he's this like defensively responsible tactician guy, and it's like, oh shit, no, he's actually could be super offensive, skill guy as well. So
Or like another McKinnon.
Yeah, exactly. Or McKinnon, good comp too. So I am super excited about the goals there. And you're right, he's going to try a bunch of shit that's not going to work this year, but eventually that stuff will start to pay off, and he'll figure out what does and doesn't work. So super excited about Macklin.
Right, and when it does work, like that pass to Toffoli that I mentioned, right? Toffoli had a great A chance. There's a big save there. That's just jaw-dropping stuff. Just go back to that play.
It was awesome.
That to me is just jaw-dropping. And in terms of just his ability to play fast, that's a great point that he plays so fast. And it's so fast that even the defense, like you mentioned, like can't. Because usually in a scenario like that, when the defense can read the play, they're just going to pick it off and counterattack out of the way. But he's playing so fast that they can't do that. And it gives his teammates a chance to recover and to get the puck back like Granlund did on that play. And so, yeah, there's it's still so much just exciting to see him back, and exciting to see him right back in there. And I think one of the things that I did want to mention too is something that I mentioned one of the stories, and I had a reader say, because I wrote in a story, the Sharks are happy to have one of their best players back, and a reader countered like, "Oh, Eric countered that he did not." He was like, "He's only played one game. How can you say that?" Well, this is why. I'm not trying to do a told you so, but when you can do stuff like that he can do, and you can see that. Saw that in the preseason, and that's one of those things that translates just the pace of play that you could see, and you can extrapolate. Okay, it works in preseason, is going to work. He was so fast in preseason that's why I was sure that it was going to work in the NHL, and so far it has to not a complete degree because it's still an unfinished product, but to a very large degree though it has.
And once he starts to switch up the pace too. That's something that lots of players like McKinnon does really well, is switch up the pace. So you go from this like super attacking to like, wait, I'm going to read the play and bait defenders in. It's going to be interesting. I'm excited for more Mac, and he looks healthy. Like I don't know. No worse for wear from his injury. It seems like super quick.
Yeah. If I can say too that I told you guys when it first happened, I heard that it wasn't too serious. I haven't asked him that, and I don't know if he would answer the question, but I would bet that if it was playoffs or something, that he could have come back sooner from his injury. So so not that serious, and glad to see it.
So I guess our to wrap up Macklin is what's the realistic expectation for the rest of his season? What do you think in terms of like goals, points, and play on ice? What do you think?
I honestly, we didn't get to do the bold predictions episode, but sure. I would have said that I think he's going to lead the team in points. I still think it's possible, actually, even though Granlund had a 12, 13 point head start on him.
Sure.
I think that he's going to win the Calder if he stays healthy.
Nice. That's a bold prediction. Yeah. So the Calder is got Lane Hudson, Michkov,
and Stankoven are the favorites, right? But.
Yeah, Michkov, Stankoven, Hudson, I guess if he keeps up some points, and obviously we have to spot Macklin 10 games, but I don't think 10 games really, like historically for the Calder, isn't that important. Like if his pace is, or if his point per game rate is super high, and he is like up in the leader of points for the Sharks, I think there's a definite possibility he could win it.
Yeah, I actually think he will.
Stamping
I would predict that. I vote on it, so I can't put money on it. Actually, I don't know if you guys know that. As a voter of the awards, I cannot put money on it.
Ooh, they're gonna find you.
But and so I didn't. But if I were to put money on it, I would have put money on that exact time where he was injured and we didn't know when he was coming back.
Yep.
But I kind of knew, and I would have put money at that
exact moment. You had the
because his odds would have been a little bit worse at that moment, and I'm sure that they've gone back to normal after, especially after that performance against Minnesota.
Yeah, the current betting odds as of 2 days ago have I don't know if this was before or after the Minnesota game, but it's Michkov at first at -105, Stankoven at +210, and Mac at +600, and Hudson at +1,000. So he's still like third with a.
I think that's got to be before the Minnesota game. I think after the Minnesota game, that's got to be.
Yep.
It's got to be a bit more even there.
Yeah, or if not, go get some money on it. We're turning into a sports betting podcast. That's what we're doing because everybody's doing that these days. Yeah. Anyway, I think it's a very real possibility. Hopefully he stays
had
healthy.
Other stuff too, that he's a center, that he's not. We just saw Michkov got scratched. Not a criticism, he's got to grow. The game's got to grow. It's not a big deal for a rookie to get scratched, but I don't think that's likely unless, of course, there's the development days that I think he may have coming. So that might cut him down.
Mm-hmm.
But otherwise, though, I don't know how many development days he has. I'm not sure what's going on with him, and that actually should ask him that. But I don't. But right now, though, I would be comfortable. Comfortable putting money on him.
Yep, that's fair. Okay, we also had. It's not a return of the Will Smith. It is a resurgence of the Will Smith. A coming out of the coming out party.
I guess. Yeah.
Something. He past week or so has looked a lot more comfortable. He obviously had his first NHL goal and second goal. And then had a beautiful assist on the power play to Jack Thompson's first goal. He is possibly getting a bump up in the lineup for the next game, possibly.
Yeah, maybe. In practicing in Jersey, he moved him up to the second line. Don't know if he's going to. Yeah. Don't know if he's gonna stay there, but maybe he will.
Yeah. So I think it's time to talk about Will Smith, and we had mentioned multiple times that the first, couple months are going to be rough for Will Smith, and I think he's finally starting to get it a little bit. Obviously, there's still games where he looks a little invisible, but then there's moments where he's starting to really shine out there, and I think that's important to take with the good with the not so good, and realize that not all development is like linear, right? It's not like he was going to start off like, okay, and then like next game's going to be great, and then better and better and better and better. It's going to be like this up and down thing for the whole year. But you want to see those moments where he, demonstrates the things that he's good at. His shot, his playmaking, his power play ability, things that like make Will Smith. And he has. So I'm just pumped.
Yeah, that release was tremendous. That's what everyone was talking about in the Chicago goals. I don't know if people realize that he had that kind of release on his shots.
Yeah, it's very, very good. It's something that...
that's NHL. That's high-level NHL.
Yeah, he does it. I mean, he's more of a, obviously more of a playmaker first guy, but he's always had a great shot. Even all the way back to juniors, throughout college. He has a great-looking shot. It's just, it's not always like it's not like he's a shoot-first kind of guy. He's looking for the pass. So, it's going to be interesting to see how he does with that, to see if he could, starts to just shove it on net more, because he does have a great-looking shot.
It's a reminder, though. A lot of people were kind of, how do you say it, shoveling dirt on Will Smith's name after his very slow start. Granted, very, very slow start. He looked rough at times. And I acknowledge that there was an argument for him to be in the AHL, which I think that if you watch his first 8 games, don't think you could say otherwise, that there is an argument for
true.
it. But this is not me. I'm not trying to use the podcast to to how do you say it, to air my grievances out, my Festivus of grievances. But there was a comment that I did mean to reply to in on the website that I never got back to. It's from Falco5, and he's been commenting, reading, I assume listening for a long time. So please don't take this the wrong way. But he wrote in a comment before Smith scored, Sheng, keep Smith up and maybe he can learn on the job. Also, Sheng, don't call up CUDA players. That's the worst thing you can do to those kids.
Oh,
Okay,
okay.
so I didn't mean to reply. So actually, sorry I didn't reply on the website, but I wanted to mention here that, like, as we mentioned many times on the podcast, I think I don't know this for a fact, but I think there are different rules for Will Smith. Again, coming out of college, fourth overall pick, a lot of leverage. So that's one thing to remember about it, right? And I think the other part of it too is that kids are different too, right? And so I think the one question I had about keeping Will here, especially through his struggles, was what was it doing to his confidence, if anything, right? And I know that some people have said, David San Luis had a great video about it before Will scored his goals. That he looked like he was losing confidence here and there on certain plays, and maybe he was on certain plays, right? But by and large, though, was he becoming a less confident player? Was this really like, is being up here, is it destroying his confidence? And I couldn't answer that question for you. I think that the people who really answer that question for you are Will and the Sharks.
Yep.
And if the Sharks thought that he could stay up here and they had the confidence that his confidence wouldn't be too shaken by the struggles he was going through, then okay, one might to say to that. If it were my developmental plan and I had all the leverage in the world, would I have started him in the AHL? Probably. I mean, he wasn't that great in training camp and preseason, whatever, right? But again, though, the rules are different. The rules are different for Will Smith, your fourth overall pick with NCAA leverage, as opposed to, say, Danil Gushchin, third round pick, 2020, no leverage. So I did want to put that out there that, like, these are different situations.
The rules are
Like
different, and I'd
yeah,
also argue that he's better. Like his potential to be a better player is higher, and the potential that he starts to figure it out based on his history is a lot higher. So even though he's not currently or at the time wasn't figuring it out, I think the potential was there. That sending him down prematurely and maybe even ruining his confidence further could be worse than just keeping him and seeing if he really starts to get it.
yeah, no, I agree with that part of it. But in terms of just like maybe he should have started there, I don't
Maybe.
disagree. But again, though, this is a different situation, different leverage, all kinds of different things. And it is good, though, that we did see why he's here in the last few games, like these exact kind of skill things that kind of plays that really who else on the Sharks can make. Tyler Toffoli can shoot like that. Mikael Granlund can set up plays like that. We know Mac can do that, but how many more Sharks can shoot like that and could make a pass like that? Not a lot. And so yeah, so it is good that sort of the, how do you say it, the proof is there finally that we saw it on tape there and it went in the net and all that kind of stuff, right? But even before that, though, yeah, like I think I think I think that this is the reason why I guess the Sharks had the confidence that they could start him out here and that we would see some of this eventually, even
Yeah.
if we didn't so much in the first part of the season.
Love it. And I'm hopeful that, again, it's going to do this up and down kind of thing for a little
Yeah.
while. He's going to have, very, very low games and some high games. But again, super young as well. So just give him time. Don't freak out. What else can I say? We've said all these things in the past about Will Smith, but don't freak
Yeah.
out.
But anyway, I would close to that. Like, generally, I like to start guys low and not give them a bunch of responsibility. And that's that hasn't changed. But if there's different rules for a player, what can I say? Like,
Yeah,
you know,
it's different rules,
yeah.
and he has a different future role in the Sharks' plans, I think. All right, we're gonna talk about
No more Festivus. No more airing grievances.
yes. We had a shakeup. So when Delandria and Celebrini came back from their respective IRs, the
Mhm.
Sharks sent down Danil Gushchin and Ethan Cardwell back to the Barracuda to further load up on the wagon, as JD would say. And I think this is going to shock everybody. I agreed with it. I think it was the right timing and call for both
Mhm.
players. Maybe Cardwell could have gotten an extra game or two, maybe. And I think that they tried him on that second line to see if it would somehow like catch fire or just to give him a shot there. And I don't think it was particularly his best game or also the best role for him. I think he
No,
was
yeah.
better in a fourth line role in any capacity generally. But maybe they could have given a couple more games in the fourth line, but Landry is still right now a better player. So, and as regarding Gushchin, I think, he had opportunities and he needed to keep like forcing the issue. I think he actually made that second line better. I think the Wenberg, Zetterlund, Gushchin line was pretty good when he was playing on it. But I think with Celebrini coming back, it makes a lot of sense that somebody like Eklund or another winger is going to be there
Right.
instead. So, yeah, I'd rather him be on the CUDA than like tolling around as the 13th, 14th forward for the Sharks.
Right, and they seem to like their third line. They want that, at least right now.
Yeah.
That might be their most consistent duel so far this season. Goodrow and Cunnin. I
Mm-hmm.
know that you guys listening may not like it, but that's coach's decision there, and so that's been kind of consistent. And so then that leaves if Celebrini comes back, then where do you put Gushchin? Well, you really want him on the fourth line? Probably not.
Yeah.
And so that's why he goes down. And obviously with Delandria and Cardwell, their roles or what they're good at kind of duplicate, except Delandria's better at it right now.
Mm-hmm.
Delandria obviously having a few years on Cardwell, so that's okay too. And so yeah, so they both make sense.
Yeah.
I think with Gushин, going back to the Will Smith thing, right? Should Gushин have started off the season in the top six with based on how well he played in preseason? Yes, of course. But there are different rules.
Yeah.
And after that, though, like we mentioned, like I mentioned, like just have patience. And he got his chance. He was on a second line. Power play, more second power play unit, so maybe not as much of his chance, but he was on a second line. He got a lot of looks there. He wasn't bad on it by any stretch, but in theory, is Eklund is on a second line right now. Is Eklund going to be better on it? Yes, probably. So that's
Very
why
likely.
again Gushing goes down, right? Like you said. So yeah, it makes sense. Actually, it's a good thing in a lot of ways because going back to actually the thing we talked about with Smith, generally I do think that I actually always think that it's better not to rush guys, and
Mm-hmm.
so here you have two players that have an argument to be on the Sharks, and if the Sharks were really really deaf poor like last year, they might have just stuck here
Mm-hmm.
and just kind of fought it out up here and gotten better. I'm not saying it would have been all bad for them to stay up here,
Sure.
but I like them down where they are, and then they'll come up again later in the season.
Yeah, and I think the most important thing is don't write the obituary on Gushtin
Of
yet.
course not.
Like it's not like I think he had the shot to get. This is his first like debut in the NHL, his first like 10 games in a row, and whether or not it went as amazing as it could have, but I think there's something there that's still there with that player, and if he could take what he learned and hopefully after the trade deadline maybe get a call up, then we'll see. If
He,
he so I don't know.
yeah,
Just don't write him off too good because I think there was already a sense to write him off even before training camp, and then
right.
does awesome in training camp. So
Right. I think he was better this time around, even without the points. I know he scored more points in previous stints in terms of like per
yeah,
game averages, but I thought he was better this time around. He showed more without the puck, which is I know that's something that they've harped on with him.
Yep.
And if he gets better without the puck, the on the puck, the offense stuff, I know that'll come with him. I'm not that worried about that with him.
Yeah.
So definitely, just like don't write off Will Smith after 8 games, 8 scoreless games. Don't write off Danil Gushchin after 10 games, 1 assist or whatever.
Yeah. And he had 2 shots that were real close, super close.
They should have been goals.
Should have been goals. But even if he scores those, I still think he gets sent down. I think it would have been.
I actually think so. Yeah, because the question then becomes Gushchin or Eklund or Cardwell or Dellandrea, and those are pretty obvious answers, I think.
But yeah, development's not linear. We'll see what happens when he goes back to the CUDA. And man, I'm super pumped about the Barracuda getting even more, hopefully better with the additions of Cardwell and Gushchin. And yeah, like I mentioned, I think Cardwell had a great 3 games. There was a lot there lots of energy, lots of off puck stuff that was awesome, and he got some penalty kill time as well, which was great. He's a great penalty killer, has been for a long time. So
stuff to work on, but also a lot of promise for sure.
Yep. All right, y'all. Let's see. We're going to the next topic, which is talking about Mikael Granlund, and you put out an article today. About yesterday, I guess, 17 hours ago, according to San Jose Hockey Now. About the possibility of trading or keeping Granlund for the long term, which I think is going to be a debate until February of this year.
Right. And we talked about it, I think, our last episode. I just want to add one thing to it, that a couple things to it that were in the article. That first, that the importance of Celebrini and Smith needing skilled players to play with. And we saw a great example of that on Celebrini's first goal. That name another Shark that would have corralled Celebrini's deflected pass and put it right back to right for Celebrini to get. And I don't know if any of the other Sharks would have, because Toffoli, for example, is very skilled, but different kind of skill set. Mm-hmm. So Granlund might have been the only one who would be able to do that. And so that's a great reminder of don't gut your team so much just trying to get draft picks that Celebrini has nobody to play with anymore, or has a lot less to play with at least, right? And then the second thing that a league source mentioned to me that I don't think is talked about a lot is the idea of skill respecting skill, that a guy like Celebrini can learn something from Gaudreau, Cunnin, all those kind of guys, right? Of course he can. But that there's also a value, too, of guys like Celebrini and Smith learning from a guy that's kind of been through it. Not exactly. Granlund wasn't first overall pick, but if you remember, Granlund was a super hyped prospect coming up for the Minnesota Wild. Then he was the 9th overall pick of his draft. And while Granlund may have never become like the 1C future Hall of Famer that some Wild fans were maybe hoping or expecting that he would be when he came through, he has ended up fashioning a really great NHL career for himself as a dependable points producer and whatnot, and in the center position. And so who better than somebody like that to learn from, who is also a leader, works hard. Everyone has all good things to say about him. Mm-hmm. And so I think that part is forgotten a little bit, that skill respects skill a little bit. And not only the Sharks have done a really good job of this, give credit to Mike Greer, that 2 of their most skilled veterans are also Granlund and Toffoli are 2 of the guys in the league that have sort of the best reputations, among the best reputations as leaders and that sort of thing. And I made this point that I'm not sure, like, for example, this was brought up to me, that I don't know if Chicago is built as thoughtfully as that, where their best veterans are also their best leaders necessarily. So I want to give credit to Mike Greer for that intention, at least with Toffoli for sure. Granlund maybe kind of lucked into as Erik Karlsson capped up, but whatever though, he's here and he's done a great job of it.
Yeah, I struggle to think of what the Sharks will be like next year if Granlund is gone and they don't replace him with somebody, of equal skill. So we still need many more years before all of the rest of the Sharks prospects pan out. So there's still, it's not like you can just plug in Musty and Granlund's spot and it's going to be fine.
No, that is not going to work. That speaking of rushing guys, yeah, that is definitely not going to work. Yeah, because
That's what I'm
Musty
saying.
isn't Will Smith. So I would add to that my opinion. Like I think I was like, yeah, maybe a second at least. I'm actually thinking maybe I got to hold out for a first to move him. And in terms of like a contract, like if it can stay within 2-3 years, I do think that the Toffoli model would be logical. If I was Granlund's representation, I might be like, well, you gave Toffoli this. Why can't Granlund get something like this? But 4 is a little long though, so if
Sure.
keep it to 2 or 3, give a high AAV, all for it.
Yeah. I mean, he's kind of earned it. There'll be, and obviously, if you get a great deal, I'm not going to be mad about if he gets traded. I will be mad if it's like a third round and a C level prospect. I'll be like,
No,
why?
that is no, yeah, that that
I
that
don't know why we're doing
that
it.
is not a good idea, in my opinion. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll see though. I'm hopeful that that doesn't happen. I think that Mike Gers recognized he's pretty important to the team. So, all right. Any other forward impressions over the past 10 days that have stuck out to you? I think Wenberg's turned it on a lot.
Sure.
I think he's had like obviously he was allergic to shooting the puck for a little bit, and then he's had a few goals in the past couple of games, so that's good. Yeah, I think that's great news for the Sharks, especially after he got $5 million in the offseason. It kind of was looking a little rough at the very beginning without a lot of offensive output in his first like 7-8 games, but now he's definitely found a little bit better of a niche for the Sharks. So that's my impressions.
Friends, have you learned the ways of Luke Cunnin?
The ways of Luke Cunnin. Talk to us about Luke Cunnin.
Guys. I'm just joking, guys.
Talk to us about Luke Cunnin.
Yeah, I mean, looking at the other forwards, I think that both Zetterlund and Eklund are going through growing pains too of inconsistency. Last time we talked, I think Zetterlund had just had a really strong game against Utah, and that's kind of Zetterlund that would like to see every night. But there's consistency, right? Eklund, Warsawski just dropped him to the fourth line in the last game. And I actually talked with Warsawski about it a bit today, and it's been kind of trending down. It's not just a one game thing with an Eklund. And so I take that as a bigger picture, just young players learning the consistency, how to bring it every night. So nothing to kind of worry about big picture, just normal.
Yeah, Eklund has very specific patterns in terms of how he plays in the offensive zone, and a lot of times he will get stuck in doing them repeatedly, and sometimes they work, and when they don't work, it seems like he gets stuck, and he's not like and he's very young still, but it's not like he can adapt all the time on the fly. So some games he looks a lot worse than others.
Yeah.
Okay, what else we got? Like Nico Sturm's done pretty well. Grundstrom's looked okay. Didn't he have a goal waved off? He did, right?
Yeah, he did. Yeah, it was such a watch the replay. It was such a nice play. Nico Sturm had the puck at the blue line, and he was stationary. He just floated a pass over a defenseman onto Grundstrom's stick. Grundstrom had the speed. Grundstrom made a great move. And I told Nico the next day that play was too beautiful to live, huh, Nico?
Yeah, it was too beautiful. Couldn't happen. So Barclay Goodrow, he had that one goal in the first game of the year, and then it's gone 14 straight without a point.
Sure.
I think he's obviously contributing a lot in the bottom six in terms of the penalty kill and soaking up some tough minutes. But maybe you want a touch more from him offensively, I think.
Sure. I mean, you could say that with that line of Cunnin and Goodrow, though Cunnin has a few more sort of his numbers look a little better than. So yeah, that definitely is there, but I think overall I don't have too much criticism because I would say with guys like that, like offense will come in some waves a little bit. Like Cunnin might have a 2-goal game out of nowhere, just like he did at the last preseason game, right, where he scored the last 2 goals there, right? And that's kind of how they do. I feel like Gaudreau has been helpful in when he has had some offensive chances in terms of just when he's kind of played with more skilled players, he's done some good things. He's had some turnovers too. Nothing brilliant, but nothing awful. And I think some points will come for him eventually too. I think overall though, I mean, I know that people didn't want to hear this, but when the Sharks were 0-7-2, and I put this in the Utah, like, because I was watching that second period and they were down. I was like, well, Sharks are actually competing in this game. They're actually playing pretty well. And a lot of it is guys like Gaudreau and Cunnin just keeping things competitive and keeping things close. And I think that's really important. And so I still see Gaudreau doing that. I see him winning battles still. I see him being helpful in the cycle. I think that he is one of the best, if not the best, Sharks forechecker overall. And so I think that while the numbers don't look great, well, he's not here for numbers, but of course you want a little more than just one goal there. But I think that I think that there's a good chance that you'll see some points again. They'll come in waves a little bit with sort of a third, fourth line types.
Yeah. It's better than last year's bottom six by far, so yeah. I can't complain, I guess. Like, Barclay Goodrow makes too much money for what he's given, but it's not like it's a huge issue right now for the Sharks at all.
Right, that's not his fault, and is he helping the team? I mean, I guess what I would ask you is that...
I'd rather he be here than not, I suppose.
If Gushchin was there in his spot, would Gushchin be doing more with the minutes? I'm not sure if he would be, honestly.
Maybe a few more points, but...
He would have a few more points, but he wouldn't be helping the other areas. And also it's not an ideal spot for Gushchin to be playing left wing with, I don't know, Will Smith or Wenberg. I guess you can make an argument for, I don't know. I guess you can make an argument for it, but Gushchin didn't do so much when his time. Gushchin's the most, I'm not picking on Gushchin. Gushchin's just the most obvious guy that I could think of that you would try out there on that third line, maybe with a Will Smith or a Wenberg, right? And a Cunnin.
Yeah, with Costin just kind of being in the background of like...
Costin's like in a phantom zone right now.
Exactly. It's like you can't put him in there. I mean, so I don't know.
So yeah, so I don't think Costin is an option right now, and so I'm okay with it. I mean, you can fiddle with it. You can maybe move him down to the fourth line. One guy that I'd like to see, we mentioned Grundstrom, right? Grundstrom, I think, does have more offense in him. So it is, even though he's only been on the fourth line, so that's sort of his excuse. He hasn't had as many opportunities, but you'd like to see him on the scoreboard too. But by and large, though, the fourth line is not only the third and fourth lines, not only are they better than they were last year, but I think that these are the best solutions here. Like, Cardwell is not ready for everyday NHL action. Who else is down there? Graf, you want to see him probably in a scoring role. He's not close to ready. Gushchin is called. There's an argument for Gushchin up there. I think that's the only guy that I can see maybe has a valid argument that you might get more out of Gushchin than, say, a Gaudreau in that role, even though they have different kinds of abilities. So Gushchin, for example, wouldn't be on the PK, but that's the only guy. Bsted's a center. Again, same thing. Don't throw a centerman out there like that. And yes, Will Smith, again, maybe he shouldn't be out there, but different circumstances. So yeah, I'm okay with it. So.
I'm just gonna mention briefly. Oh shoot, I lost it. But you mentioned that the Sharks started 0-7-2, and I just wanted to reiterate they're 4-2 in their last 6. That's like, I don't know. They're just like, it's just a better hockey team in the past couple weeks. So I think we have a lot of older opinions from the first 9 games of the season that. But
even 0-7-2, they were looking better. Yeah. I think they've gone from.
They're still the last place team in the league.
Awful.
Yeah.
To just bad. They're just a regular bad team now.
The only team that's worse than them is their recent trading partners, the Nashville Predators.
Right,
so.
Isn't that crazy? Yeah.
That's absolutely dumb. We'll talk about Dante Fabro in a minute, too.
But after last season, though, to go from historically awful to just run-of-the-mill bad is fine. This is an upgrade.
Yeah,
we all agree. We all agree.
This is a much more watchable product all over the ice, everywhere, in every position.
Exactly.
So, All right, let's talk about the Jake Walman drama. We're gonna preface this is we're gonna talk about the whole defense as like a big umbrella.
Hmm.
A couple of the guys that have been playing and some new additions. But let's start off with the Jake Walman drama. That's seems to be a little bit of a nothing burger.
Yeah, yeah. Well, the only thing I would say about it is that I don't know why the Sharks didn't just say this from the beginning. So it
Yeah,
becomes enough. It becomes something when you sit your second most used defenseman, your most prolific offensive defenseman, arguably your very best defenseman, and your best all around defenseman, and you sit him, and it just kind of you leave it up to mystery.
hmm
I know that some people have said this. I guess a festivus of grievances here that
hmm
I've seen people say to me like, "Oh, like you're making something out of nothing." Like I'm not. Like if you leave no information or you leave very little information, people are gonna run with speculation, especially with a guy like Jake that hasn't had a pristine reputation, I would say, in different spots, and so people are gonna run with that. And so I don't. I report what I'm given. You give me nothing, I'm gonna say nothing, and then people are gonna run with it. If you say stuff like non-hockey reasons and team, talk about the team culture, or not fitting or whatever, like there's a culture we have to uphold, but you don't give the context, then people are gonna run with it. I'm sorry, and so I think that from the very beginning they should have just said we're sitting him a non-hockey reason. He missed the treat, just like Jake said today. He missed the treatment session. No big deal, but that's our rule, and he missed it, and that would have been fine. That would have been the story. I would have reported exactly what was said, and it would have become nothing would have stayed pretty much nothing. Now it's not totally nothing because again you are scratching arguably your very best defenseman
hmm
for a non-hockey reason. So that's always a story, but it would have been a lot less of a story if the Sharks had just kind of met that head on and just said it from the beginning.
Yeah, you wish. um, but it's a little bit strange overall. I think it's like the entire process was kind of dumb, and I wonder how much of it was just some new folks and new roles, and maybe we just needed a little bit more
Yeah,
clear
like
talk.
you say the word, it does seem strange, right? And so I'm sure people will come after. I believe Jake's explanation,
Mm.
and I've dug into it, and I believe I wouldn't have reported it because I don't like just being a shill for the team or whatever they say either. Like I dug into it a little bit. Like I believe it,
Mm.
but it looks strange because of the way it was handled.
Yeah,
Because at first we were it's kind of our fault too, but we kind of thought it was performance related because Jake wasn't great in the Vancouver game.
yeah,
And then we find out it's a non hockey reason, but no explanation is given.
yeah.
And then things start to take off from there. And there was no reason for any of that because before even when he was first scratched, for me to ask if it was a non hockey reason would have implied something.
hmm
That like why would I ask that? Because if anybody misses a game, you don't ask, oh, is it for a non, like some like
Yeah,
something
yeah.
nefarious or something like that. And so yeah, so yeah, I think that it should have been a nothing burger, but yeah,
Yeah,
it became something,
it
and
did. And every
I am not going to take I am not going to take the blame for it because if you tell me as I mean guys, you can tell me this, but what is my job? I don't work for the team. Some people forget that. Like people wonder why I chase negative stories or say negative things about the team. I do not work for the team. And so if you're arguably your very best defenseman who was also on a tear recently too, scored 7 points in his last 4 games, and he scratched for very how do you say it? Just very unclear reasons.
Mhm.
To put it, yeah, to put a euphemism on it. What am I supposed to do? Am I not supposed to ask questions about it? Am I not supposed to? Do you guys want answers to those questions? I think most of you do. And so, yeah, so that's my job. And so anyway, yeah, so yeah, I want to say that because I know it's trendy in
Yeah.
certain circles to blame the media for everything.
Well, I think this story just caught because Walman was given away with the second round pick, and
Right,
everybody was
right,
like, "Why?
right.
He's
There's a
a
lot
good
going on,
defenseman."
right? Yeah, yeah.
So
There's he's not, again, pristine. I'm putting it nicely too. It's like whatever happened in other places, like if something like this happens, you don't offer, again, absence of information invites speculation,
mhm.
and
Yeah.
that's what happened here.
Anyway, let's let it blow over. It's dumb.
Yeah, it was nothing, and I said I believe it. I believe it, and yeah, I think that Jake participated fully in practice, so I think he should be ready to go for this road trip, ready to play, and
Yep.
hopefully put it all behind us because let's talk about his actual play. So there's a lot I like about his game. I think there's things to clean up. I think that for him to become a winning player, I think that he has to be more careful with the puck. So I think what I see with Jake is a little too adventurous with the puck, and
Yep.
he's not quite at the level of, let's say, Eric Carlson, where he can always get away, or he makes up for it with so much offense that he can make up for these turnovers here and there. So I
Mhm.
think I think Jake's got to clean that part up. But otherwise, I mean, the skating, the stick, he's got a very good stick. The just the overall kind of offensive package, got a good shot. He's not like phenomenal in any sort of, I think, offensive area, I would say, but he's good in a lot of areas. He's got a good shot. He's a good playmaker. He's fast. Has good instincts. So he's there. There's really a lot to work with here, and just needs some refinement. And granted, he is 28, so I don't, you know, how much more polishing can he do here? We'll see, but definitely though he's been the Sharks' best defenseman. I would say. I think Cody Ceci is playing a little more than him in terms of just average ice time, just by a hair there.
Sure.
But I think that Walman has been pretty easily the Sharks' best defenseman so far this year.
He's probably the only defenseman that 3 game win streak is not like entirely him, right? There's a lot of factors why, but only defenseman that can have that kind of upshot, that kind of upside of being able to put up 7 points, 3 games, look
Right.
that good, and lead the team to wins, right? So you got to take the good with the bad with him. I think, even though like every single Sharks defenseman, I think they're all playing one lineup. It feels
Yeah.
like.
Right. Right. That's a fair point. Yeah.
So I think if he's a second pairing defenseman, I think he's done pretty. Like I think he's going to make your hockey team better. But I think if he's eating every single minute, I don't know. We'll see. But
Yeah, and
it's
actually, he has moved ahead of Cody Ceci as most used defensive means. I guess Cody to cut his minutes down a little bit the last couple of games.
so
So
yeah. Still a great pickup. Still a great trade. I don't really have anything other than anything else to say about it. He's one of the few Sharks defensemen that has some offensive upside. And speaking of offensive upside, we traded for one this past week as well in Timothy Liljegren. Or is it Liljegren? Liljegren or Liljegren?
I think he think
I think it's Liljegren.
Lodrigan. Okay,
I think.
I think
I
he,
know
he
that
said
Randy
so, but
mentioned.
he said for years that people had said both, and he didn't seem to care. So, but Lodrigan. Okay,
I
I'll
think.
go with that.
Uh,
But
I could
anyway,
be
yeah,
completely wrong though. I don't want to say it, and then he's going to do the same
trade
thing.
was for Matt Benning. It
Hmm.
was actually after the Utah game, so it was after their first win. So
Yep.
last week, and third round pick, and I think a sixth round pick. Yeah, sixth round pick. I think in 2026.
Hmm.
And anyway, yeah, another one where it's oh, I think people will forget this, but like Matt Benning, if he's healthy, is a really valuable player. I just don't know if we were going to get that back, the 2022-23 version of Matt Benning. I think that he would have got back more in trade, but Benning's been working his way back from injury here, and I want to add that note. But otherwise, though, yeah, I think it's a great gamble. Liljegren's just 25. His contract is reasonable, just 2 years at 3 million, and see what he can do for you.
Yeah, I loved this trade.
Yeah.
I think was really it addressed the Thrun Benning pairing, which I think was very, very not great in the beginning of the year, and recognizing that was a kind of an issue, even though Benning had some good play time in a Sharks jersey, it just looked like he hadn't really got it this year so far. And then it turns the Sharks defense from basically you're giving up Benning, Emberson in a sixth for Walman, Liljegren, CC, and a second in 1 year, like less than a year, which is, I don't know, better is a way to put it, I guess. But yeah, I liked the trade a lot. I found his play to be okay. Great speed. He can move the puck okay. I don't think he's really looked entirely comfortable just yet, but I'm not super mad about his play either. I think he's looked okay.
Yeah, I think he's just been okay. Let's not forget, too, that in Toronto, he was playing very, very little. So when the trade happened, he only played one game this year.
Yep.
And that might be why when the trade happened, it seemed like the natural thing to do. I guess we'll get to this because we're going to talk about the rest of the defense. But the natural thing to do would have been to pair him with Ferraro. Ferraro's a left-hander, Liljegren's a right-hander, and Ferraro and Rutta had been together, lefty and righty, Rutta being a right-hander. And Ferraro and Rutta had been and I've written this many times. I thought it was a tough pairing just because I think they're both good defensively, but neither is great with the puck. It wasn't a great blend of. It was maybe a bit of duplication, even though Ferraro and Rutta are different kind of defensive defensemen.
Mm-hmm.
They're good at different things, but still, though, I never really loved that pairing from the beginning. And so anyway, we did see in practice today Ferraro and Liljegren together, and so we'll see if they stick with that. And then I saw Thrun with Rutta, which is more logical. Rutta at his best is a very good bottom pairing defenseman. Won a Stanley Cup that way with Tampa, so kind of make those kind of people are slotting into roles that are more logical. I mean, look, last year Ferraro was the Sharks' number one defenseman, and that's like 1 or 2 spots too high for him. Rutta was up there too, 1-2 spots too high too. By the end of the season, I think when they had nobody left, like Rutta, was playing 21, 22 minutes a night, which is a bit high. So last year he had guys who were maybe two tiers higher than they should be. This year it's at least just one, at least, yeah. And you have some guys who are slotting into the right place.
Yeah, I mean, roughly,
right? So we're getting there into more competitiveness out of this team.
And again, I just like the addressing the defense bit by bit, and not you're not mortgaging the future for guys either, and you're not you're just trying to get it to a passable level, and I think it's getting there. It's I think the Ferraro Rutta pairing last game was their worst game I've seen from them. It was.
I think they were put together late though. I mean, they didn't start the game together. So.
No, but Ferraro, at least Ferraro was with.
Yeah.
For most of the goals against, I think he was on there with
yeah,
Rutta.
I had to look back at it because he started the game with CC. So.
Yeah, but when they got put together, or at least throughout the game, it looked very poor. And Ferraro had a bunch of gaffes that didn't look amazing for the goals against. So I'm curious to see if he does look a little bit better with somebody who can move the puck out.
Yeah, I mean, the best Ferraro has looked in his career was the last time he had. Well, he did have Erik Karlsson too, but for whatever reason, that pairing never worked. They did try that a couple times, and for whatever reason, I'm not sure why that never worked. But the last time that most people agree that Ferraro was at his best was with Brent Burns.
Yeah,
and the Sharks haven't had a lot. That's one thing that I mentioned talking with people too, actually to Falco too. But this is not a area of grievances, but what kind of defenseman is the hardest to acquire? Right, it's a puck mover who can defend. And it should be Jake Walman, but for a reason, Detroit just gave him up, right? But like guys like that, the extreme examples, Cale Makar, right? Guys who can move the puck but also defend reasonably well. or at least they're usable defensively, right? Those guys are really, really valuable. And so anyway, like the other tier of guys though, like who's also valuable. Defensive defensemen are valuable, but they're easier to acquire.
Yeah.
And so anyway, it was just like in Ferraro and Rutta, I still believe they're valuable players. And I said this last week, I still believe Ferraro's a winning player. He's just on the wrong team.
I guess.
And so anyway, Mike recognized, I think, and we talked about this, that he needed more puck moving. And so that's why Liljegren makes sense in terms of the cost, like you mentioned, wasn't high. Oh, I want to mention this too. Third round pick again. Relax.
It just moves
How we learned
around.
to relax about third round picks. I
Just
think
moves around.
after this last year from Thomas Turtle on, we learned, right? So
Yeah, it's like your third round pick is your, I don't know, your $20 bill you keep in your wallet. Like you have it there. It's important, but you could just, you'll get a $20 back, and it's just like it just rotates. It's not your $100 bill. It's your 20.
it's your most valuable movable asset. Like
There you go. Yeah, it's the thing that you need to buy something of importance, but
Yeah.
not like you can't buy, a ton with it, but you can buy
Right,
something of
right.
importance. Okay, so we talked about Ferraro Rutta. Any thoughts on Henry Thrun? I know that you had mentioned offline that you were impressed with a few of his plays to Macklin in the game against
Well,
Minnesota.
we mentioned that earlier in the episode that Macklin's first goal against Minnesota was he was sprung by a Thrun pass. Thrun passed
Sure.
the forechecker right into Macklin's speed. Macklin pushes everybody back. It was actually a really simple formula. Get it to Macklin at full
And
speed.
then whoop.
Macklin pushes everybody back. So Thrun's actually done that a few times this year. So he's shown some puck moving this year. I think with Henry, obviously just consistency, which is a young player thing. And so I think a lot of people have kind of jumped off the Henry Thrun train or the bandwagon. I'm not completely off of it yet because I see a guy that again has these moments. You just got to put it together on a night to night basis, which I agree he has not done. But I was talking with somebody, a scout, about this. Just like he was curious, and this is not a ringing endorsement of Henry Thrun, but he was like, who is he? What's his game?
Sure.
It's a fair question because it's hard to say exactly. We talk about this all the time that Henry is not great in any particular area, but he's pretty good in a lot of areas. Like he's not the biggest guy, but he's decent size. He's 6'2", right? 6'3". He's not the strongest guy, but he is getting strong. He has the frame to be a stronger guy, right? He's not like lanky or anything like that. He's not like Elias Pettersson or something like that. It's like extreme example there. But if he can just come together with some consistency in the next year or two, I can still see him becoming a very valuable part of the Sharks' defense. But yeah, consistency is an issue, and of course, it's that much harder on the Sharks team. And I will add that too, that about Rutta and Ferraro, that I don't think there's any harder job in hockey the last couple of years than to be a defensive defenseman on the Sharks. Maybe to be the Sharks goalie,
Maybe.
especially last year. And so I think it's easy for people see the last name on the back of the jersey. Look at how a play forms and how a play gets there. And was that on Ferraro and Rutta? And sometimes it is. A lot of times I don't think it is.
I think that was my
And
big thing about the last game is that specifically Ferraro, because you're right, he was on with CC a couple of times, but I was watching him on the goals against, and a lot of it was Ferraro's inaction or not being able to make a decision with the puck and then losing it. And there was a few goals like that I think he also just has his defensive, mindset is very get body in front of the shot, it's very shot block focused, which works for a lot of players, but it can get him into a situation where he's just kind of puck watching and he's waiting for the play to develop, and then he just is waiting for it to get his body in front of it instead of trying to anticipate like getting in a lane or trying to get the puck off of somebody. And I don't know. Very frustrating for Ferraro, is my opinion. And Thrun also was getting cut puck watching a ton too, and
Sure.
he's just 3 years younger, so you give him more rope, or 4 years younger. But yeah, I think the difference is that when Thrun has the time, space, and has a little bit of a little bit more clear offensive picture, he can make that pass.
He's probably
Whereas,
better with the puck at this point than Ferraro. I think
so
that's fair to
that's
say. Yeah.
yeah, so that's why I hold out a little bit more hope that Thrun can. And I still like Ferraro on the team for what he brings, and he's a great leader on and off the ice. That's never going to change. But yeah, it's rough some nights, and you're right. This is the hardest job in the NHL is trying to be a defensive defenseman on a bad Sharks team.
Well, one thing that I see in my replies a lot are people saying you got to scratch Ferraro, you got to scratch Rutta, but who do you play? I'm asking you. Who do you think they can play more? Like Thompson I did a story about this about Thompson's defensive that things he's working on.
Sure.
Thompson is very rough defensively. I don't. Yeah, I'm not. The article explains it better because there's tons of video. Talked with a lot of people. Like he is very rough defensively,
Mm-hmm.
and so there's a reason why they don't give. Because again, what's more valuable than a puck mover who can defend reasonably well? If Thompson could defend reasonably well at the NHL level,
Sure.
then he would be in the top four of this Sharks team already. Because there isn't a lot of competition on this Sharks team. So who else? Who would you play over Ferraro and Rutta, in your opinion?
Yeah, I would probably at least not try and shove Ferraro or Ruta for so many minutes, because I think not that he's playing a ton of minutes per night, but he's maybe could sit a game or two because he is older. He could get his legs back. I think that would be a good shot to
Before they
try.
acquired Liljegren, though, who would you have played over him?
I mean,
I mean, would you have
nobody.
played Thrun, Thompson, or
No, or
Benning?
Benning.
Benning
They were
was
worse.
injured. Benning coming back from injury. Dude, this isn't Benning 2 years
No,
ago.
I would agree. I think Benning was worse. So I like the idea that they got out of that to try and get a replacement in for him. I do think maybe now that you've got the little Liljegren, that hopefully you can reduce some Ruta minutes by putting him down to the third. Hopefully. I think we also mentioned a lot that yes, we really, really need like a puck moving superstar offensive D man, but a rock solid number two for the Sharks would do so much. Like if they had a Noah Hannafin or a Slavin or a Pesci or a somebody or
I agree.
Hampus Lindholm, they would
Brady
do.
Shea.
Yeah,
That's why I suggested giving Brady Shea $10 million a year.
yeah, but this team would look so much better if they just
Sure.
had one guy that you could plug out there in any situation and be like, he's going to be fine.
Hell, the
Because
team looks better with just even Walman out there.
I know, and Woman's like the poor man's version of that. Like, you just need somebody who's rock solid on all, every draw you need him out there. That's what you need. Even if it's not a guy that's like a superstar. He's not Cale Makar, but just one of those dudes would make the team look a hell of a lot better.
Sure.
Because then you can
I agree.
use your
I
guys
agree.
like Ferraro in the situations that they're good in. Use your guys like Walman in the situations they're good in. And then, yeah, you've got another line that's just a rock solid line. And they don't
What
have
does
it.
that go back to? It's the hardest thing to acquire.
Yeah, it is. Well, yeah, that and a franchise center, I think, are like the
Right.
hardest things to acquire. Probably.
Well, they have that at least. But,
Yeah, we got that one.
yeah, and so that's why I talk going. I mentioned his name. He's like a ghost. I mentioned him at every episode. Shakir Mukumadulin.
Yeah, hopefully.
I feel like you say his name 3 times, he'll appear. Shakir Mukumadulin, Shakir Mukumadulin, Shakir Mukumadulin. But he's the guy that is the closest to doing that, close to the NHL
Yeah.
right now. And long term, maybe that's Sam Dickinson. Maybe it is Luca Cagnoni, but again, the defensive part, Luca's going to get eaten alive at NHL level defensively right now. So, especially defensemen don't do that to them. And so there are no. So I get the frustration of like, why are you giving these guys so many minutes, right? But who else are you going to put out there that isn't going to get killed even more?
Yeah.
And there are no answers to that. The first reasonable answer we've seen is Liljegren, who I think, if the practice lines today, it only makes sense why the Sharks acquired him. They acquired him to to eventually play him up, right? And so
Mhm.
so Ferraro Liljegren, that makes sense. Mukmadula makes sense, but he just hasn't been healthy this year, healthy enough to be in NHL this year. So what other solutions do you have that are reasonable?
Claiming Dante Fabro.
All right, well,
Bam.
there's a good
Boom.
segue.
I don't know. So there was like, I think it was a rumor last year, and I don't know if it was
Yeah,
just
yeah.
a Twitter rumor or a real rumor. I can't remember at this point.
I think
That
it was Friedman. Friedman mentioned that the
okay,
Sharks liked him, and there were a lot of connections. Obviously, BU. David Quinn was the coach still. David might have actually coached Fabro too, but I'm not sure. I got to look back on that one. But
sure.
um, and obviously Greer BU too. So there's an argument for it. He's right-handed too. I think right. I was looking at
He
the other
is.
day
He's
too, right?
right-handed.
And
He's
so
6'1". He's
yeah,
26. He's kind of fitting in that 24 to 28 age range that Greer likes
yeah.
to just acquire for
He's
free.
more of a
And
combo defender, right? He's not really. He's not really particularly strong in any area though.
yeah, and he
Yeah.
did. David Quinn did coach Dante Fabro in
Oh, okay.
2018.
Okay.
Not his last season when Fabro was the captain of BU in
Mhm.
2019, but in his second to last season he did. So there was connection then. I do wonder if the interest is still there with just acquiring Liljegren, who's kind of like they're similar players, I guess is the
Mhm.
way to put it. Um, Maybe there's
Liljegren's
other.
probably better though.
Liljegren's probably
Yeah.
probably better, and I think maybe Fabro has a touch more of an edge, not a lot though.
Mhm.
Like Liljegren's been billed as like a very non-physical defenseman. I think Fabro has a touch more,
Sure.
but I don't know. You could do that and then put sit Rutta for a couple games and see if it works, and then put him back on
Yeah.
waivers.
Let me think. Let's see. Vlasic is still a ways away. It feels like
Hmm.
Mukmadulin has been playing with the Cuda. I actually wanted to check. Actually, is he playing tonight? Look at the lineup.
Hopefully,
It should be. Did they? Yeah. I'm actually just curious. That's actually important because he missed his last game. I think actually. Yeah.
his
They haven't put out the lineup yet, though.
yeah, they haven't done it yet, but I will be watching, so that's going to be fun.
Yeah. Um, I think there's an argument for it. Yeah. I mean, I can he give you more? He's younger. What is his contract?
This is the last year of a
Oh,
$2.5 million
okay.
contract. So
Okay.
he's kind of like a, if you claim him, you can get rid of him if you want. He's kind of like the Costin of that situation. He's not an RFA though, but
There's an argument for it. Yeah. I mean,
you can see.
yeah, I could see it. It's enough. I'll check in on it tomorrow morning to see if I can get the jump on. I always try to get a jump on Elliott for waivers, but never can. But I'm close though. Yeah, I'm close. I have.
Maybe he'll get it this time. I don't know.
Yeah,
There's a lot of
I have people
things.
I can check in with on it. So yeah, so I get
I'd say
pretty close
it's
to it. But
infinitely more likely had it happened before the Liljegren trade. I think
yeah,
there
it would have
was
made a little more sense with the slotting, right?
yeah.
But if they liked him before and still the same age level, and if you can kind of tell yourself, well, I mean, it pushes Thompson definitively down to AHL, which you can make an argument that's the best place for him, even though he has shown some nice flashes. And I want to give Thompson credit too. One thing that we've all noticed is he has a very quick shot.
He
I
does.
really like that about him. He's very good at getting on net. He
Hmm.
might be the best on the Sharks actually in that exact area. I'm not sure, but he's up there among Sharks defensemen in that
Yeah.
area.
And
His
congrats
defense
on
it
his
is
first NHL goal too.
and his defense is growing too. That's the story that I did was about sort of some rough spots he was having when he first came up, and then areas, and it showed some improvement too. But in terms of his net front coverage and his physicality and that sort of thing. But as with young defensemen, the story is always it's not about what you can do for one shift or one game. It's all about consistency, right?
Hmm.
So anyway, so pushes Thompson down, which I think there's again an argument for that, and so then that leaves then like Vlasic, Fabro in theory, Mukmadulin in theory, Rutta in theory, all just kind of Thrun, all fighting for spots. If you want to assume that CC and Walman are safe, Ferraro is safe, right? And maybe Liljegren plays himself into being a safe guy, which I don't know if he will or not, but
Yeah.
yeah,
And
it might be. Yeah, it might be a little too full of a room. I'm not sure. That could be the only kind of
hmm.
like you mentioned before the Liljegren trade, it made complete sense.
Yeah.
Now it's
Could try it, see if it works, but
Yeah.
they might not, just because it's too much change too quickly as well.
Yeah.
And also you got to wonder why Nashville is putting him on waivers too. I haven't really he's got no points in whatever 6 games or something, but I really do wonder, are they just done with him, or is there something going on? I don't really know. I haven't really followed his career today.
I mean, obviously they had a tough start. I see he hasn't played a lot of games. I wonder if he's been. I haven't looked. I should have looked it up, but I assume he's been a healthy scratch this year.
Sounds like it. Well, I don't know though.
So.
Yeah, so you got to wonder. But I think the upshot is I'm excited that the Sharks are better than they are last year, and better than they were in the first 2 weeks of the season, at least on the score sheet.
And Macklin.
And Macklin is back, and you can't be mad about that. So I got nothing else. I'm excited to watch the Sharks soon and watch the Barracuda tonight, and then shout out to Sam Dickinson, who's killing it in the OHL.
Sure,
We can just do a quick shout out for him.
Eric
Polkamp
is
is killing it.
18 all last year. Yeah.
Yeah, and Eric Polkamp is killing it. I think he's got 12 points in 9 games, something like that. So awesome. There's defensive help coming. It's just a couple more years.
It'll be a little while though. So
yeah. Hopefully Sam Dickinson turns into that guy, like the guy you put out there for any situation. So
yeah,
that would be amazing for the Sharks.
That'd be ideal. Yeah.
All right, y'all. We will be back next week, probably at a more reasonable interim than last time.
Yeah, I think I might still be on the road next week, but we'll see.
But I hope you all have a good week. We'll talk to you later. Bye.